Hi there, Laura here, the founder of Get Organized HQ, and I want to tell you how you can organize like the Home Edit. Now, if you're not familiar with the Home Edit, they are a team of professional organizers, Joanna and Clea. They've been organizing for a long time. You may have heard of them. They have a very active, beautiful Instagram. They also have organized for several celebrities, and they have their own show on Netflix along with many other things. So even if you don't recognize their name, you've probably seen their products and some of their stuff out there in the organizing world. And if you're anything like most people, you might look at that and be like, whoa, that is some serious organization. I want my spaces to look like that, and who wouldn't, right? But there's one important thing I want to note before I tell you how to organize like they do, and that is that there is no rule whatsoever stating that anyone needs to organize in the same style that they do. And like I always say, we need to take a step back and decide, what does it actually mean to be organized? So in order for a space to be organized, every item needs to have a home, and everyone needs to know where that home is. And it also needs to make you smile. That's it. That's all that's required. So again, you could make this beautiful color-coded system with these expensive bins and it would be organized, but you could also just set your stuff neatly on the shelf and give it all a space. It may not have the exact same look, but it is still every bit as organized. So I don't want anyone to think that you have to do it like this, that you have to spend all this time, that you have to buy all these things. You absolutely do not. But this is for those of you who are like, I kind of want a space to look like that, or my whole space to look like that, and I'm frustrated because it's not turning out that way. I can tell you why, because I've spent a ton of time studying all these different organizing styles, and I can tell you exactly why your spaces aren't quite turning out like that and what it would take to get them to look like that. I also want to say that for myself personally, what I like to do, I love organizing. I love the beautiful color-coded organizational spaces. Like, that is just my jam. And so I do spend some extra time getting some of my spaces to look like that, but not all of them. To me, that's too much pressure. Like, it's just not practical for me and my family to have every space looking like the Home Edit came in and organized it. So instead, I have a few spaces like that that I'm really excited about, that really make me smile. And the rest I don't worry about so much. But again, it's totally up to you. Nothing wrong with making your whole house look like that if that's what you want, or none of your house looking like that if that's what works for you. All right, so let's dive in to what you need if you want some of your spaces to be the kind of the Home Edit style. First of all, you need to realize that the spaces you're organizing you're not just organizing stuff. This is half organization, half decor. So you have to really go in with it intentionally and realize that my job is not just to sit here and take all this stuff and bring order to it. My job is actually to elevate it and make it look like a space that's decorated. So that's kind of half your job if you're wanting that style. Huge component of what they do, and if you look through their Instagram feed or any of their stuff, you'll see this, is that they use tons of matching containers. Like, they're not mixing and matching a container, they're using tons of containers, and they all match within a space. They're all the same style, and often they're using the clear acrylic style because they're kind of showcasing the products that are inside them. All right, now this is something that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but they purposefully purchase products to organize for their looks. So they're not just going and taking any old pantry and taking those exact same products and bringing order to them. That would be a perfectly fine thing to do, but that's not what they're doing. Instead, they're taking an intentionally curated pantry and bringing order to that. Because if you look carefully, all the products themselves are often the star of the show. Like, you can see them really well. The packaging on the products is usually very bright and colorful. So they buy products. Like, you know, if I go to the store, I might buy macaroni noodles, and I might buy them one day at Aldi, and the next time I'm at Walmart and I buy those. So then I've got a whole mismatched array of styles of boxes. And when I'm buying my macaroni noodles, I'm not paying one bit of attention to what the packaging looks like. I'm just like, buying whatever is cheapest. That's kind of my own personal criteria. But if you want it to really truly look like that, you're gonna have to go get the exact same macaroni noodles every time. And you're probably gonna choose it based on the packaging of the box. And I can guarantee you that a lot of those photos that you see, they intentionally got products just like a magazine shoot. that look really good in there. So if you're like, oh my goodness, I can't make my pantry look like that, it's probably because you didn't go out and buy products just for their looks. And if you didn't, that's fine. But if you want it to look exactly like that, that's what you're gonna need to do. If that's important to you, great, do it. If it's not, then just acknowledge, hey, my stuff isn't going to look quite exactly like theirs. So they're getting stuff that matches with each other. There's not a hodgepodge of stuff. They're getting stuff that looks really nice. And then in the situations where they might have stuff to store that doesn't look like that, they're probably going to make it more hidden. That's not what you're going to find in those acrylic containers. You're going to find those maybe in covered baskets and things like that. I mean, this is true even in like refrigerators that they organize. I think they purposely bought produce that's like really colorful and covers the rainbow, and also drinks that are pretty and colorful. They don't have like mismatched everything. So this is just true across the board. Also, along with products that look nice and are matching, most of the time their bins are pretty full. So they don't just have one box of macaroni, because that would look kind of piddly, like if you had a whole bin and you only had one box. Instead, there's 4 or 5 boxes. They really fill out the bin. And they're not putting too many different types. So they're not putting 6 different sizes of boxes in one bin, maybe 2. You know, maybe in the front you've got a shorter box, and in the back you've got a taller box. But again, they're filling it out. They have a lot of matching products, not just matching containers, but matching products. And I've seen them, like, for example, in when they're organizing baby stuff or like linen and toiletries, they don't just have, like, for me, I might have 2 extra tubes of deodorant. I've often seen them with like 10, because it fills up the entire bin. And if you notice, if you were to just take out 60% of the stuff, like you just didn't have that much extra stuff on hand, it's not going to have the same look. When something is the right amount of full is when it looks its best. So you don't want it just like stuff to the brim and stuff coming out, but you also don't just want like 2 things in there and a whole bunch of empty space. So they've got the right amount of product. That also means that if you were to do this in a practical setting, and keep in mind, the pictures you see on Instagram and magazines were taken for Instagram and magazines. We don't know if the people actually live like this on a day-to-day basis. Like if you went back to a space they organized 6 months later, would it look like that? I don't know. Probably some of them do, and probably some of them don't. So again, they were taken for that specific purpose of showcasing them online. So keep that in mind. But often they'll need to have a backstock, because if you want to keep your bin full, you've got to have something ready to go in when you take an item out. So you're storing a lot of what they officially call backstock as well. And kind of one of their trademark signatures, and I personally love this, is everything is always in rainbow order. So when they've got something colorful, and they're going to gravitate to a lot of the colorful things, it's going to be in rainbow order, Roy G. Biv. Now, I personally love this, because if you have stuff that is colorful, it costs nothing to put it in rainbow order. And it's actually pretty easy, and I find it kind of easy to find. So for example, books, especially children's books. I love putting those in rainbow order. Typically, myself and the child remembers the color of the cover. I don't remember the author. I might remember the title, but not the author. So I'm not putting those in author order. And also, a very small child can recognize colors. It's actually, good to help teach them, recognizing patterns. And they can easily put it back roughly where it goes. So I think that's a great one. And then a lot of the crafty items, like those colorful pom-poms the kids have, or their crayons. I love putting those in rainbow order. And when you're using those, you're typically actually selecting them by color. So it makes a lot of sense. It's not a lot of extra work. It's not a lot of extra cost. So this is something that I personally love, but that's something else you'll notice, is that it's always in rainbow order. A couple other things to note is that you'll often see them, especially in kitchens, like pantries, drawers, is that they're decanting items. So they're taking them out of the packaging and putting them in clear bins. And this just has a certain uniform, beautiful look to it. I do this with a lot of my stuff just because I really like it. I also don't like messing with the bulky packaging. I also feel like the packaging can lead to things going stale quicker than if you put them in an actual bin. Now again, you have to decide if it's worth it. Like if one week you have this snack and the next week you have a totally different snack and you have to change your bin out every week, that may not be worth it. But if, for example, you always have goldfish on hand, then make a bin for your goldfish and dump them in there, and it'll be easier to see what you have. So again, this is really just up to you where it's worth the trouble, but you'll see that they do that a lot, and not just them, really across the board. Most of those like organizing eye candy accounts are gonna have a lot of things that are decanted into containers. This is probably not just unique to them at all either, but they also discard a lot of packaging. So if the packaging isn't beautiful, it gets discarded. So for example, I was looking at one of their where they organized batteries and they took it out of the packaging and put it in clear acrylic. Or if you get toothpaste in like a 3-pack, you're probably going to take it out of that outer packaging. Same with a lot of different food items. Again, when you decant it, toys, you're not going to leave those in boxes. You're going to take them out of packaging. And when you take things out of packaging, it does a few things. First of all, it cuts down on bulk in a lot of cases. So I'm a pretty big fan of this. I'm not saying I always do it, but I think it can cut down on bulk and it can increase uniformity. So like, for example, if I have a stack of games, I don't know why, but board games are not a standard size. They're all different thicknesses and sizes, and they're not a standard color and anything like that. So the stack is not going to look very uniform. But if instead I take all those out of the packaging and put them in like zipper, they'd be pretty large zipper pouches that are all exactly the same, and then I put them in a basket or on a shelf, we've given them uniformity. So by discarding packaging, it allows you to bring in uniformity. And what is like a trademark of their style and a lot of different organizing styles is that extreme uniformity. Like everything looks the same. We've got matching bins. And so removing packaging can really help you do that. So if you're hoping to get your space looking more like the home edit, that's how you can do it. Let me know in the comments if this works for you and what you have noticed. And also go watch my video on reverse organizing. I think you are absolutely going to love it. This is a very simple method for getting your spaces organized.